we're two people who are idiots in blockchain. We don't have a clue how it works. So could you, I know it's a complicated subject, could you explain blockchain technology to like a 5-year-old, or put it as simple as you can?
Yeah, sure. I rather call it a sort of granny-proof explanation, because I'm not sure if a 5-year-old would understand. But if you just try to give some mental models, and the first one I like is like when you move from one apartment to another, you put your belongings into boxes, you compress them, and label in order to know what's inside. This is what blockchain is doing. Blockchain is compressing data into blocks and put a label on that, and the next box comes on the top of the box. And if you would like to understand why is it useful, just imagine that this tower of boxes is here, and in case of blockchain, the labels can communicate with each other. So this is what we call hash link, and in order to change the data, modify the data on the top, you only have to modify the data below that, and below that, and below that, and below that, until the genesis block, which is the first box. And this requires an unimaginable computing process. So that's why it's basically impossible. And how to imagine that? This box or shoebox tower is here, and I pay you a very little money for keep one of your eyes on the tower. You cannot see what's inside, but you just let me know if someone is around the box. This is what the miners do basically. So you have no clue what's inside, but you can let me know if something is going on.
You're like a security camera watching the boxes.
Yes, basically, yes. So this is one approach. The other is like just imagine a constantly growing file, to which everybody has access, like a Google table or something like that. You can open a new munkafüzet, new
cell.
Yes, new cell or new, and so you can basically add the cell. You can add any kind of information, but you cannot delete anything. If you want to delete, you have to know it's another transaction. You add it, so that's why it's constantly growing. It never can shrink or something like that. But you can have access, and just like in case of Google tables, you can check if everybody did something, or because it's a activity log on that, and you see who did that and why did that. Or just imagine, you mentioned the security camera, but just a photo apparat or a camera, and this camera is filming any kind of system. And based on your preferences, it takes a photo every 10 seconds, every 10 minutes. It's up to the business model, and with the time log, sends this photo to all the participants of the network. So that's why if something is missing, then you just put the pictures in order, and you can basically draw the trend line and extrapolate where are. I mean, if this is a sort of I don't know, you are filming sheep or something like that, and a few sheep is missing, that you can extrapolate if there was a wolf or they just hidden in the forest or something like that.
And at what time?
Yes.
So you can kind of so it's a lot safer.
Yeah,
let's say, because I mean it's like a community that are coming together and all looking after one project. I assume is the outcome. But I mean, we've all heard that Bitcoin can be used as a currency, so you can buy and sell stuff as an example. But I mean, from our understanding, there's different coins like Ethereum and Ripple and certain, and they've all got kind of different features. But what is the real world application of a blockchain? So it's safe, that's fine. But what would separate that from, I mean, the US dollar, as an example, would be considered a safe currency too? Or is it actually the currency not what blockchain was initially intended for?
Well, that's a much more complicated question than what is blockchain actually.
Okay.
But, yeah, and again, I have very different answers. Yes, US dollar is a very safe and secure unit of account, let's say, here. But what about North Korea? What about Iran? What about Russia? What about Venezuela? They have a different approach. And, the people created blockchain and Bitcoin had this kind of understanding. They were quite a visionary people for sure. These really, really hardcore developers, how you can imagine them, that privacy is much more sensitive issue than we would just consider earlier. Like, it's in this part of the world, like we can say, who cares what's going on in North Korea? But if you look at on the human level, then we are humankind is basically equal. Everybody is equal. We should have the very same approach and the very same possibilities to trade and do whatever we want. And yes, we can like or not like the North Korean government. It applies to the US government or the Hungarian government as well. So the person, the individual should have the right and the possibility to protect himself, herself from the government, from the corporate world, because they understood this, like in the 70s, that thanks to the technology, thanks to the development of the technology, the individual is basically losing the fight against the government and against the corporate world, because the information asymmetry is growing so much, so fast, that with the access to all the information and with the access to the technology, they can basically drive and control us totally. The idea was to create something that can counterbalance this. That was the approach. And at the end of the day, what basically born a seed of a completely new financial system. And this is where things getting more interesting, that the global economy is changing. Now we basically understood. So the global economy based on the international division of labor. That's how we ended up in globalization. But the basic idea that every country has a sort of specialization using the Adam Smith approach, like comparative advantages, set of comparative advantages, and this is what defines your place or you are in this system. But what were the basic rules or basic ideology or let's call them rules of the usual economics? Is basically scarcity, the labor force, which means one who does not work shall not eat, right? And that to create something new costs money. And these three rules are not sort of a guideline now, because of, just with the AI, with the robotics and stuff, labor force is not that necessary anymore. Creating something new, it can be basically anything, a tool or a mean of production or something like that, can be can happen on almost zero cost, meaning marginal cost tending towards zero. And scarcity is it's sort of,
depends on demand.
Yeah. So basically the basis of the usual or the normal economics, what we get used to, are in question now. And we need something more. I mean, I'm not saying that, but at least there is a possibility. And why we have a financial system which is basically has been developing for, 8,000 years or something like that. the first written memory is basically a financial transaction, not a love letter. So it's a quite organically developing something. But we have mediators in this system, not because the ideology would not allow us to trade peer-to-peer, but we had no technology and we had no algorithms and the way of thinking how to do that without a mediator. And now it's possible to trade everything peer-to-peer. So basically the three main rules of the economics is sort of in question and changing. And first time in the history, really it's really a historic time that we can do any kind of trade on peer-to-peer level without any doubt.
Sorry, Chris. Just to elaborate on that, it's because from what you're saying there is, I think it's probably humanity developed like 8,000 years ago or whatever it was that you just said, and at some point a king or an emperor came in and put a currency in, and there was a third party involved. Like, so if I was to buy a sheep from you, I'd pay with coins or gold or whatever, like a physical set amount dictated by a third party. And now we have kind of gone back before then, because now I can trade with you directly for X for Y, should I say. Like I'd go and say, hey, I'll swap you these logs of wood for a sheep.
Yes.
So it's kind of going, but like we needed that technology to get there. So it's kind of like an origin story, but with a modern twist before the third party.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you think about money or the monetary system, just like I really like. I just heard it from Elon Musk in a podcast that money is basically a database, a database so the global economy is basically goods and services, and money is the database to somehow to log the energy exchanging owners between the owners. And the thing is that you needed anyhow someone who to printed the money, and you needed someone to as a
facilitate.
To execute the change, execute the change of the goods or the money. Just like when the
like a card payment system or like a facilitator.
Yeah. The facilitator needed, yes, basically. I mean, the birth of the banking system was like how to create a bank and why do we need a bank? We don't like banks. I mean, and now it's really a trend not like the banks, because we consider them, just someone stealing our money and providing not real services for us. But the idea was that when you went to, I don't know, Jerusalem, the Crusaders went to Jerusalem and they did their job there. I mean, obviously not that kind of nice job, but anyhow, the Crusaders, some of them became very rich. And with a bunch of gold, it was not really a life insurance to, just hanging around. So it was basically a driver to spend as much as possible, because at least you had some experience, you lived your time of your life, and at least you could survive. And the idea was that, okay, there is someone who can take care of your gold. When you go back to France or Hungary or whatever, with this kind of letter, you can get back your gold, and that's why we take a cut of it. That's the idea. That's how the banks created. So it's a very good idea. I mean, the financial innovations are usually something for creating or helping, supporting the cash flow and mitigating risk. And we usually forget about that, and Bitcoin is basically something similar.
Just to go back to blockchain, the security of blockchain is basically we're just hiding in the mass, the volume of information. So there's no complex security to it. I imagine there's some algorithms and stuff, but basically you're just hiding in the volume of everything.
No. So the math is there. I mean, cryptography, number theory, and really high math is there. The technology is there. This fault tolerance systems, and also the network. So this is what.
But I mean, from my understanding, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. I mean, they're the ones I kind of have Googled a little bit. They all do certain different aspects. I mean, we'll come on to why they're different right now. But I mean, from our background in the military is we were always told, terrorists use Bitcoin or terrorists use this. And that's why I think Chris is saying that, is it not just that you can hide in the mass, or is there a way of using the blockchain as well to find somebody who's done a dodgy transaction, or is that kind of null and void?
No, I mean, there are a bunch of disclaimers when we are talking about Bitcoin or any kind of blockchain. But in case of Bitcoin, we never use, at least officially, the term anonym. It's pseudonym. That means you can be with statistical data, you can find out who is who. Okay. So it's not that you can hide. I mean, there were some cryptos for providing this kind of privacy, which, by the way, it's not that, the devil's idea. I mean, just like 10 years ago in Hungary, everybody was using only cash. So you cannot detect cash. And again, there were not all the terrorists were here. So it's not that simple.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, what we like to tell that terrorists basically use US dollars. So that's the
the ones we gave them.
By the way, yes.
So I mean, the whole, let's say, the biggest misconception, or one of them, with blockchain and Bitcoin would be that terrorists only use it, but actually you can kind of find the wallet and you can find the address of the person, and it's not as terrorist friendly as people would think.
No.
I mean, let's call it just a negative, tag, where it's like, if you talk about blockchain or cryptocurrency, it's like this negative attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand new concept, so everybody has to, get used to it, and it's a technology is complex. I mean, IT. I mean, this meme, the shit you know, shit you don't know, shit you don't know, you don't know, and the things with the knowledge is like there are a few areas which we are really proud not to know, not to understand, like IT, legal stuff, and usually finance. It's too dry for me. But basically, blockchain is related to these three sciences, like the really high math, really high level IT, and financial terminology, and a bunch of legal terminology and legal concepts. So it's really complex.
So I mean, I don't want to say I will say what is your favorite cryptocurrency out of them, or what do you see as most likely to be? I mean, Bitcoin's obviously the mainstream focal point. Is that because it was the first on scene? Does it have the best technology? Is it most likely to be adopted? Or is there something different? What is the differences between the currencies as well?
Oh, a bunch of differences. I mean, just a step back. So Bitcoin, I mean, everybody is asking what's behind Bitcoin. Why? What's the value? What is providing the value? And besides the network effect, because in economics, it's clear that there is a clear network effect. Many people is using that, but we have a mesh network there, which is providing really a value, a network of hardware, network of energy, network of processing capacity. But there is also this so-called proof of work, which is a mathematical model that also provides. There is an algorithm which also provides a model, and the uniqueness of it also provides a sort of value. And if we agree at least that there is some kind of value of that, then what's the question then? What is that value? And why can we say, just like usually in business, let the market decide what's the value of it? And basically, that's what's happening. But why are we uncomfortable with that? Because there is no equation. we cannot use any kind of equation to determine the value of Bitcoin. But why is that a problem? If you just think about how science works, it's not like we invent something, we invent an equation and let it work, and in the real time, then it's happening. No, we try to understand what's going on, and over time, we find the right equation. We try and error, and so we have the equation to write down what's going on around us. And somehow, with Bitcoin, we are not comfortable with this because we created Bitcoin. I think that's basically the difference.
Yeah, for me, I mean, look, I'm not an investor in crypto, and I've kind of always shied away from it, to be honest, because I didn't understand it, or I don't understand it, and that's for me personally. But I think it's crazy to say there's no value there because, like you said, what is value? Let the market decide. I mean, I pay, I don't know how much anymore, a certain amount of money for a password app that collects and stores all my passwords. I think it's on a blockchain as well, and that's in and I pay for that, and I'm like, I could just do that in an Excel or a piece of paper. But that is providing value, which I could find somewhere else, but I'm happy to pay this fee because it makes my life easier, or I trust it. So I think there's always a value in an idea, and what do you value it at? And I think that's where people get uncomfortable, or uneducatedly uncomfortable, where it's, even with the US dollar right now, I mean, when currency was gold backed, you knew what it was worth. And now the US has kind of took over that gold standard as the world's reserve currency. And I think that there will be a big change because people kind of would prefer that model, because, you could, with the US dollar, if you just, I mean, look, the US printed more money, to my knowledge, than any other nation during the pandemic, yet it's still getting stronger and stronger. And every other currency is scrambling. I mean, look at Hungary, who's had crazy inflation, but because it's an importing country, the US printing hasn't helped Hungary's situation at all. Yeah. The same with the euro. And if that printing was, every country printed the same amount of money, it'd all be kind of a lot more relative than, the poorer countries. So I do understand that value argument, and I think that what do you value it? That's why people get uncomfortable. Yeah. Because there's no understandable, simple logic behind it. It used to be like $10, I can buy a McDonald's Big Mac meal and a Happy Meal or whatever. With Bitcoin, one day you can buy a Happy Meal, the next day you can buy a Porsche. It's that, I think that in itself as well. So just coming back to your mannerisms, so is Bitcoin your kind of like main focal point for crypto?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But just let me answer what you just come up with. According to gold standard, I hear this kind of reasoning many times. But if you look at actually what happened with gold standard, and the time span of gold standard, end of 18 something, we can say that the gold standard started when the large European powers and the US started to use it. So end of 80 something. And when it ended, Bretton Woods or with Nixon, so it's less than 70 years or some 80 years. What happened in that 80 years? Just think about that: two world wars and the largest financial crisis. Mm-hmm. And yes, we can say that it's not related, but empirically it's really difficult to say that. And again, what to evaluate? It's again a question. Are you looking for the equation, or are you looking for the value it creates, the usefulness? Because Bitcoin is basically an idea or a technological and mathematical solution to create something really new, a new financial model, global financial model. I think that's something. Blockchain is basically just a sort of accounting system for Bitcoin, and that gives us a fraud-proof business log. Mm-hmm. Just think about that: fraud-proof, totally trustless environment. It's not like there are people we have to trust in, like the bankers, like the guys at the Big Four, like the government, like the stuff like that, like Bernie Madoff, and It happens, and yes, we have to trust in them, but sometimes there are some bad actors. Mm-hmm. And with blockchain, there are no bad actors.
Because everyone's watching each other.
Yes, on paper. But the problem is when you start to talk about trustless environment, that was the misconception that with blockchain everything is trustless. No, that's the problem. To build the basic environment and basic infrastructure, we need people who we are trusting. And it's the difficult question: who can you trust in building a system which will be totally trustless? After that, on transaction level, you don't need trust. But if it's built not on the right way, then you are basically screwed. and that's the problem. So when you saw the new ICOs, like we bring this and that on the blockchain, so it will be totally trustless. You don't have to trust in me because you can trust in blockchain. Yeah, that's what the fraud. That was basically the fraud. And getting back to the question, Bitcoin had this kind of let's say mission to be a new global mean of unit of account or unit of exchange. But Ethereum is a totally different animal. It's basically a global computer. So it's a global infrastructure for computers, which made you able to create new applications which you can run on a global level in a trustless environment. So it was like if Bitcoin is the new money, then Ethereum is the new computer environment. It's again a computer standard. And the new other tokens and other blockchains had different missions. Like you mentioned, Ripple, it's a something, again, like not really blockchain, but something like that. It was a sort of answer of the banking system that there is something, this kind of new technology which wants to take over our place. Why don't we, develop something in order to? It's a sort of immune system of the banks, but they basically adopted to the idea how to deal with international transactions. So if you focus on the utility of Ripple, then clearly there is a utility. But the basic idea of blockchain is that we have a mesh network. That means we have nodes totally equal rights, equal everything. That means you have the same voice that myself and you and everybody else. It's not like there is, I don't know, Elon Musk, or there is Donald Trump or whatever, the chairman of the Fed or something like that. So there is no one who can say that let's print that kind of money, that volume of money. That's the basic idea.
So, I mean, just to paraphrase a little bit. So I've got it went like wildfire in the British military. And I was at a wedding just now, and every single guy in the military there is invested in Ripple. Like a lot of money to them, right? Because somebody put a good case, and 20 years ago, someone told you, I've got this horse that's going to win a race. Everybody puts a bet on, the horse breaks its leg, you lose your money. It's like a tip. So everyone's invested, including my best friend. He's got a lot of money in Ripple, and I'm just going to let it ride, see where it goes. Now it might go, I don't know. And I said, well, why did you pick Ripple other than Bitcoin? And he said, because my friend of a friend of a friend's dog told him Ripple was better. Could you just tell me, in very simple terms, what's the difference between Ripple and Bitcoin in terms of functionality?
Functionality, Ripple is basically created to manage the global transactions between banks. That's it. That's the basic idea. I don't know. Actually, the real crypto guys and blockchainers do not really listen what's going on with Ripple usually. So, I mean, that was the case when Ripple was created, so it's like out of scope for us. Still, it can happen, and exchange rates are totally different. I mean, utility and exchange rates are, it's like in exchange. Sometimes it's totally different, but in case of Bitcoin, it's a network of equal nodes. That means you can download the data, all the transaction history. You can run a full node, and with that you can basically vote for everything, like Bitcoin improvement protocols, and you basically run the system. With Ripple, to my latest knowledge, you have no chance for that, because it's like, I mean, there is two or at least two different or drastically different approach for blockchains. The basic idea is blockchain something bottom up, created for you and me, SMEs, the small guys, and we can have the totally equal voice, totally same level of voting right than the big guys. So this is a mesh network. That means everybody is the same rights. And there is a top-down approach, which is a sort of public administration and corporate level, meaning they don't use the proof of work or proof of stake, meaning, okay, so definition, proof of work, your voting right is based on the work you do for the system. Proof of stake is your voting right is based on your skin in the game, how much you invest, and that gives you a sort of rational voting right. But this top-down approach, which is the public administration approach and the large corporations approach, is proof of authority. So who can run the node is basically up to the big guys. So public administration says, like, there is a European level blockchain. It's a European blockchain services infrastructure. It's an initiative to create a European level public administration blockchain. So somehow we can log everything on the European level. The idea, every member state has the right to tell what kind of node, who can run a node, who can be in this system. So this is a sort of proof of authority. You have the voting right and you have your say in this system because the government says so. Just like you are the tax authority, you are the tax administration, you are, I don't know, whatever who you are, you have your say in this system. Anybody else, no chance. And I don't say this is good or I mean, it's not a sort of value or judgment or something like that, but this is how it works. And these kind of, the both technologies called blockchain.
But they're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. So
the issue, I guess, when the government starts getting involved with regulations is it just cripples everything, right?
Let's say, I put it mildly, it's a different approach. Yeah. So, yeah, but the thing is, I mean, I was also involved in that part. I mean, with the blockchain association, we were basically part of the public administration. And, when I started actually, how did we start? We were in the Mensa Association, and we were some total noobs in blockchain, but it's something interesting. So how to mine Bitcoin? This is how we started, and we did lots of study. And after a half year or a year, we realized that we are still noobs, but it looks that still we are the smartest in that sense, at least in our area. So we started giving out lessons. We started to giving some lectures, and at some point it ended up in a university. So put it in a nutshell, in a zanza. But the thing is that this is the normal learning curve for basically everyone. And why did I end up with this?
We were just talking about regulations, the public administration part.
Yeah, the public administration part. So I run my company, and I thought that this is a poor government, this is a poor leadership in the government in that sense, and it's really a pity because in 2016 or so, when Ethereum just started, we had a panel discussion, and we just basically mentioned that it's really interesting because this is the first time that Hungary is only half year behind Switzerland, and we have this knowledge here. Why don't we take a bold step and leapfrogging or something like that? Oh yeah, we can do that. It's why, and I don't understand why the government does not support us. Until we get a sort of question from the government. It's not an official advisory stuff or not any kind of official question. What would you do in our place? So how could you help us? What we should do? And So it turned out I'm not that smart because I had no clue what to do because it involves so much risk.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we ended up in quite a similar situation than with everything. Who ended up leading blockchain in terms of everything? Switzerland, UK, Singapore, China, US, the same guys.
Big financial hubs.
Yeah, but the same guys who are I mean, the bold ones who usually take risk, who are able to invest, and we ended up in the same place when we usually.
I mean, coming to modern day, do you not think that? I mean, I'm only going on this from my financial background head on. Is we talked about that the US government and all, I mean, look at the pandemic, right? The governments can just print money at will to get them out of a hole. Of course, it builds a bigger debt pile. I understand that argument. But from my understanding, if the world adopted, say, Bitcoin, or a government adopted a cryptocurrency, they couldn't then send out food stamps or checks, right? I mean, do you not, I'm not trying to say that's good or bad. What I am trying to say is that if let's say the Hungarian government or the French government or the UK government adopted Bitcoin or Ethereum, are they, in their heads, they're losing one of the biggest tools of power they have?
Sure.
Which I understand the argument from an individual standpoint.
Sure. I mean, you are totally right. And that's the problem on the governmental side. And they start to understand that from Bitcoin perspective, there are no governments, there are no countries, there are no borders, nothing. So, in case of, there is usually governments has some rule how much money you can bring with yourself to a different country. But what if you download a Bitcoin, an
USB stick?
Yes, your USB stick or your phone. You memorize the mnemonic. You have like 100 Bitcoin on your phone. You memorize. You forget the phone. You travel to Brazil or something like that. You buy a burner and download without anything, Wi-Fi or everything, just use the mnemonic and you have 100 Bitcoins. So, there are no hierarchy at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only that the organic human history, like 100,000 years based on a hierarchy, but it's in our genes, like million years.
Yeah.
And with Bitcoin, it's a mesh network, no hierarchy.
So
it's crazy.
so like if let's say the British government had a Bitcoin wallet, they'd basically have the same rights as a guy who's an alcoholic in his bedroom.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So like that's it. I mean, I understand the appeal to that as well, but like it comes down to that's a lot of risk for a government, right? So coming back to them, would that not make more sense for, like you were talking with Ethereum, because you can build off that a government built, like say, the Hungarian forint or the euro or the dollar off another network, or would it be better to build their own currency? I mean, I do think that the argument for the world moving away from a cash society to a blockchain is going to happen, or something similar online. What do you think is the best option in your opinion for a government in this instance then?
Well, this is the let's say background work. What is going on right now to decide what is the option? I mean, what is the best option and what are the options at all? Like, I don't know if you are familiar with the term CBDC. This, with the central bank coins. Basically,
Okay.
all the central banks are developing something, or at least not just flirting with the idea, developing or doing some experiments. Why don't we have a sort of coin? And sometimes it's not really involved with blockchain, because that's the thing, that with blockchain, new ideas, and with the new ideas, sometimes they use the old technologies. But with CBDC, the central banks want to make international transactions cheaper, and giving some other rights and other advantages in the systems. But some disadvantages and questions come up with that as well, just like how to deal with the situation that if you have this kind of access, usually there is two-tier banking systems have the central banks, and there is an agreement that the central bank does not offer you individual accounts. They don't trade. So how to deal with that? And how to deal with the situation that all the central bank the central bank has direct access to everything, and how can they run in that level of data sharing and data protection? And from the Bitcoin perspective, guys, what is the question? We have the answer to everything. We have this system. It's working. It's scalable. And it's running up and running. So it's really an interesting question. And obviously, I have no clue what will. Still. We have the chance to have this new financial system, which I'm not advocating, because I'm still not sure if really want to do it. It makes really sense, but what I'm really in love with is that first time in history we have the opportunity to at least experiment with a new financial system.
And just coming to that, one of the things I tweeted on and I put out and I said, what are the big risks with Bitcoin? Because generally I didn't, was trying to figure out questions for this. And China's banned cryptocurrency. People go to jail if they get caught with it. I understand you could hide a USB stick or travel to Brazil, like you said. Mm-hmm. Because this is a completely online system, obviously if the internet disappeared, then that would be a big problem. But if we head into another world war where one of the questions was EMPs play a big part, and a lot of devices, because there's rumors of like USB sticks worth billions in scrap heaps somewhere and stuff like this. Would that not massively damage the potential of Bitcoin, or is there like a back route, or
you don't need a USB? Nothing. You can store your Bitcoin on paper. You just need to write down the codes and that's it. And you go where you have some access and you can basically download everything.
Okay.
And the nodes are in different places, so that's why it's a mesh, a global mesh network. It gives you the idea. So basically, all the full nodes download the total history, the transaction history of Bitcoin. Just to think about that, what Elon Musk is saying right now. So we need to be an interplanetary species. That means if we have a planetary level disaster, we cannot recreate anything. If we have a full node on the moon, we can basically download all the knowledge again in 10 minutes, or I don't know, depending on the speed, but 2 days. That's completely new. Something it goes beyond. It goes beyond.
So blockchain basically goes beyond just a currency. It can be a store of any data.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because that I understand the worth for a lot more than we have this places in Norway where they keep all the seeds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, what about the Shakespeare's writings and all the other stuff you want to keep track of? If there's a fire, your library's gone.
Yeah, because that we thought that place is frozen whole year. Now we realize that it's not. So again, we have to worry about the seeds.
Just completely off topic, and let's say the world did explode and we put all the stuff on the moon. Would that be physically stored in hard drives on the moon, or how would that? Where is it?
We need hard. So that's, cloud is also someone else's computer. So.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Silly question, I know, but just curious.
And what are the biggest? Who are the biggest ones that are pushing back on this? Governments, banks, combination.
Everyone.
Basic. I think. Yeah. Everybody has a different sort of stake in keeping everything as it is. So even myself, where I think even Satoshi Nakamoto maybe is not that sure that we should run that fast with that. So we have to try and err and see. Just like El Salvador applied Bitcoin as a legal tender, right? Okay, small country, they make profit because of the exchange rate, but besides that, still they have to understand what's going. Just like you mentioned, the social system, how you handle that. I mean, with early adopters of Ethereum, so there were. It was a very usual problem in case of Ethereum when companies who applied promising applications on Ethereum in 2016 and 17, they usually hired the developers and the staff based on tokens and coins. So that was the deal. I pay you in Ethereum. So they ended up in a very very difficult situation. Like after 4 or 6 months, the whole team was that rich that they don't want to work at all. And it went like 100 times or 60 times in 6 months, the exchange rate. So I'm not interested anymore. Sorry, guys. And
cash out.
yeah, that's it.
Which is understandable.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, for me, people get comfortable with the norm. They don't like big change, which I think, it's human instinct, right? Which is what you're saying. And I think one of the biggest, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of the things I got told on this tweet I put out was, the transaction time of using Bitcoin in, say, Tesco or a Walmart or a supermarket is the problem. Some saying it's like 17 minutes. I mean, I don't know how true that is. It was from a tweet, but is there a way of getting that faster? Is it really that slow? Or how could it be sped up? Or what's the future for transaction time? Because for me, I mean, if Bitcoin is going to play a big role in society as a coin itself, then that, people are used to that tap.
Usually, I mean, just like a few years ago, we had the perception that it's decided. So Bitcoin never will be a sort of usual money. It's more like a store of value now than the unit of account or mean of exchange. Okay. These kind of functions. But actually, technologically there is a solution. This is the layer 2 solutions. Then we develop another layer for Bitcoin, and we log the transactions and synchronize, and that's it. So that's easy. That's the easy part. The question if we really want to do that, because we have other crypto solutions. I mean, just like you mentioned, a bunch of cryptos, and with crypto, that's the good thing, that you can basically develop a labeled money for basically everything. Mm-hmm. So you can create micro ecosystems, like in some cases, just I don't know, Szabolcs in the apple producing part of Hungary. That region is basically East Hungary, but it has more commonalities with the other part of the borders in Ukraine and Slovakia than with other parts of Hungary. So if we want to create a micro ecosystem for them in order to track everything what's going on, label the money, support them with really labeled money, and we can decide, okay, so what do you need for developing your activities? Okay, you need better seeds, you need better soil, you need better whatever, and we can label, okay, we support that, and you can only use it for that. And in your tri-national region, you can trade with each other. Mm-hmm. So with fiat money, you cannot do that. So,
yeah. I mean, that would be a big thing for charities as well, I guess.
Sure.
Because if you see, I was back home in the UK, and there's in December, and there's a guy on the street saying, "Can you just give £10 to help some kids or something like that?" And he said, "Do you not care about the kids?" And I said, "Well, are you working for free today?" He's like, "Well, no, I'm getting paid." I'm like, "Okay, so all my money's not going to that. I'd rather go and physically give a kid a tenner." £10, and at least I know that kid's going to spend that money. Now he can still spend it on a game or something, but at least then I think that's a good argument where if I'm giving there's a famine in Africa and I give money and it can only be spent on corn or food or beef or whatever, then I think that would make a lot of sense in the charity sector as well, which I didn't even think about.
Yeah, obviously, and what's more important, that it's totally transparent and you can basically automate it. So it's there is no facilitators, there is no mediators for that. You can do that, and you can be sure, mathematically sure, that the money goes in the direction you want it to send it.
So with Bitcoin then, do you think that it's gonna, I mean, you said it's more of a store of value now than a transactional currency. Do you think that'll always stay the same? I mean, what's stopping another transactional store of value? A store of value.
Well, for now is the fluctuation for sure, and obviously there is a problem that there is only 21 million Bitcoin. I mean, there will be 21 million Bitcoin in 2140 or something like that. So that's a constraint, but obviously there are technical solutions for that. But the question is, I think, again, we should rephrase the question that if the world decides that this is the direction to go, then it's not the question what's going on with cryptos, what's going on with the fiat money. And if fiat money disappears, I mean, just imagine, if fiat money disappears, I mean, obviously you would rephrase the question because there are no other solutions than somehow to store the value and somehow to use other labeled and automated monies. And that's the big thing, and that on Ethereum you can create an application and you can involve a sort of automated money on a software level. And that's the big thing, that you can use money on a software level. And so it's not that creating money out of thin air, because if you just imagine you do an ICO and you do a token launch to finance any kind of activities. That was the perception that these shady guys just created some bullshit crypto and promised something. They exchanged the sort of shallow crypto to Ethereum. They sold the Ethereum and they just disappeared. But the idea is that if you are a trustworthy person or a trustworthy business, you can basically do your ICO right now, because ICO is nothing more. I mean, again, different perceptions. ICO is just a smart contract driven token launch from technological perspective. But from business perspective, is basically it's a pre-sale of product. Before creating your product, you can pre-sale it, and it's an interesting idea, but it's not that interesting. Just like think about real estate, this is what they do. Elon Musk did the same. I mean, there were no Tesla factory, and he already sold the cars. So you can sell before creating it, and the idea is that you will finance the production from that. And just think about something more tangible. In Hungary, I mean, Libri, the
bookstore. Yeah.
So they have this kind of Libri card, right? So how do they work? You can buy a Libri card, and you can use it to buy a book. So you basically pre-sell the book, pre-sell it, and you have a promise, you have a right to exchange it to books.
It's like a voucher.
Yeah, it's like a voucher, but this is the idea. And why do we trust in them? Because we know Libri, and that's the thing. We need a trustworthy company, and they can do it. So basically, how much Libri card they can sell? What's the cap? No cap. What if they decide that they want to put the whole system to a more trustworthy technological solution on blockchain? Who has any kind of, I mean, can you do it? No, and who cares? And that's the thing. And if you think that this way Libri is creating something out of thin air, then you have to rethink. But the business model behind Libri card right now, that if you buy something, buy a book, they give you back 10% of that. So, but why do they give it back to you? What's the idea behind?
Loyalty.
loyalty. So basically, instead of spending that 10% to TV advertisement or something like that, they give it back to the most loyal and the actual target group. So basically, they account it in the marketing cost, or so they finance it basically the marketing budget. So what is it behind? The marketing budget itself. And you know that it's a trustworthy company. You know that they have a bunch of users, so they have the network, they have the budget behind that, and it's just a redistribution of the budget, and that's it.
Sorry, Chris. There's the Hawk Tour
Yeah, I was just
coin
gonna bring it up.
scandal.
Yeah.
The Hawk Tour scandal, and there was the Loganpole scandal recently as well. With the, that's what you're saying. It was a pre-funded cryptocurrency project that may never have got off, or it was a complete scam. The Loganpole one, I think, still being investigated. That stigma, and that like bad taste that leaves with people who don't understand cryptocurrency. How do you think that could be stopped, or should it just be people need to do more research?
Well, just think about crypto as a company. That's it. I mean, Jake Paul has this Prime, another scam.
Loganpole.
Logan. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's you can consider it another scam because just soft drink, and it's like in the gold price or something like that for a cost of gold. So what's the difference? I mean, drink it and that's it. So if you buy pink sheet, stock. You understand that you went into a very risky area. That's why you need to be a high net worth individual and stuff like that. And that's the only difference. For investing in crypto, you don't need to be a high net worth individual. But from the perspective of our poor guys, that's again, the big guys close out us from the really, really juicy deals because I'm not rich enough to be involved. So again, it's a democratization of that. I can invest in small cap exchanges and small cap sheets, and that's it.
So it's a bit of like a fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, yes.
Yeah.
And they can create a hype, and I think everybody had to understand that it's really risky. I mean, especially the Hawk Tour.
But I think this is the education point in this whole thing is that like you said, I'm not investing into some secure cryptocurrency. I'm investing in the idea of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, but we had
the
this
possibility.
Yeah, but we had this conversation after the financial crisis in 2009 or 2010 that we need the financial education because the modern financial system is that inherently complex. So we created something that even more complex, and now we are discussing the education because on one hand, you cannot be that educated that you will understand blockchain, out in and out because it's really
evolving.
Yes, it's evolving and it's really complex. On the other hand, you just need common sense that Hawk to a girl, come on, if she.
I mean, for me, from the investing standpoint, is I'm telling my friends about why did you invest in Ripple, and a friend of a friend of a friend, and I said, okay, well look, I was a financial advisor, and I'm telling you, that's not enough for you to put your life savings into something, right? And but at the same time, I think the same people would have put a decent bet on a horse that they got a tip on, or that have bet on a football game, or one of the big questions I can get, can you teach me how to trade stocks? And I'm like, well, how much time can you dedicate a day? 5-6 hours? No, like half an hour a day. Like, no. You can't teach, even the best traders in the world are doing 10 hours a day for years and still have a chance of failing. So I said, I think everybody wants to, the dream of get rich quick clouds your mind. I mean, we've all took bets on football or something like that. Like Manchester City are definitely going to beat Nottingham Forest. Was one recently when I was back home. Nottingham Forest team's just come up. Man City have these, £1 billion team, and and they get battered, and stuff like that. And I think that if you flip a coin, even if it's a rigged coin, if you flip it enough times, it's still going to fall eventually on the other side. And I think that's the same. I mean, I'm not personally sold on the cryptocurrency model because of, I think the governments are going to fight like hell against it until you have a government come in like, El Salvador was, yeah?
Yeah.
And I remember when that first happened because it was big news, and I think the Bitcoin crashed as well, like not long after. So everyone was like, we're losing money, we're starving, bail us out. And like there was big riots. And I mean, now everybody loves him because he was visionary and all this. But when the next cycle comes, we'll see again. And I think that, a government, the bigger governments in the world, like Hungary, I think there's an argument for having their own, decentralized currency. Maybe it kind of gives you a clean slate away from a cryptocurrency. But like the US is not going to give up the US dollar. Like there's just not, unless they can control it, because it's not just controlling their own economy, it's controlling the world. China the same. I think that's why China, banned it as well.
And what advice would you have for the average person? Because there's a lot of scams out there, like, hey, we're mining crypto or whatever the heck it is, and so many people are being scammed by these different things. And again, it goes back to education, right? Where it's like, understand what it is. But what piece of advice would you give someone that has an interest in doing this?
Well, just like you mentioned, I mean, I also have a master in finance and I don't know how to trade. So, yeah. So if you don't know how to trade, don't trade. I mean, what we tell all the time, no financial advice, do your own research, stuff like that. So if you, what is the usual? If you can only invest in that amount that you will not miss. I mean, you can survive without, obviously. But again, just to get back to that part, I mean, like you mentioned, China banned Bitcoin. Everybody was surprised with that, because that time China was really a leader of everything with Bitcoin. They had Neo, the token, Binance, and all the big exchanges were Chinese. Bitmain was Chinese. The mines were in China. So we had totally leaders and market leaders, like 80% or something like that. And once in a while they just said, okay, it's banned. And hindsight, you see that the capital flight was the issue, because they could not regulate Chinese individuals not to bring out all the money from the country. So yes, now we understand, but again, it just shows how different problems can come up, and the strategy of the country level strategies, financial strategies, and can be challenged by this kind of solutions. And so why companies not fighting more tough or with regulation? Because again, there is another part of the game. Just like think about Europe. In 2000, we decided that we want to make Europe great again. So the most competitive region of the world. So again, what's the definition of competitive? What is competitiveness? It's basically, we usually think about it, that it's decided by how big ratio can you attract of the 500 million, let's say 500 million creative minds. And it's decided by the funding system. How can you fund their ideas? How can you support that? And on economic or financial level, it's basically a race between the two parts of the Atlantic Ocean and with basically China. And EU has not much. I mean. After the financial crisis, all the banks lost like 30% of the sheets, right? And if you want to compete the US in that sense, you are facing with a exchange-based financing system and funding system, a very mature VC culture, and the banks the American banks were able to grow back their balance sheet thanks to the quantitative easing and stuff. So basically, we ended up with nothing. All the European startups were looking towards the US or even Asia, Singapore, or stuff. So we ended up in a situation where there is a sort of route this kind of grassroots financing system, when using this microcap investments, you can basically let your European startups be financed by the small guys, and that was a very attractive idea. And okay, we understand the risks they are involved, but what are the alternatives for that? So that's why it was really difficult to say, okay, we can bound that. There are no options. So I mean, yeah. And again, it's a technology. As a technology, it's really attractive. And again, why don't we say conceptually that we don't want to do that? Because just like we mentioned that the economics, the idea of economics and the way of economics is changing, the technology is changing. We are in the midst of an industrial revolution, the material science is evolving, new materials, data forwarding systems, 4G, 5G, 6G is evolving. Sensors are cheaper and smaller, so we have more sensors, we have more data, IoT systems there, big data. On the big data, you can use statistical inference, meaning machine learning and AI, additive manufacturing, robotics, self-driving capacity and stuff like that, and everything needs to have some kind of trustworthy data solution. So this can be blockchain, but we have these technologies which are really, really disruptive technologies, and we don't understand, and they build on each other. So the outcome will be really, really big. We don't understand how exponential this kind of growth is. And on the other hand, we have existential threats we have never faced, like, we think overpopulation, desertification, like food supply problem, waste and global warming and stuff. And we have these exponential technologies here, sort of promising a kind of solution for this. So it's really a really difficult situation we are in, and we have disruptive technologies threatening with really ruining some kind of existential systems, but also we have these kind of problems. We need like AI. We need a quantum computing. How we can solve that kind of problems. So I think it's really a sort of double existential threat or something like that. So that's why I think it's clear that we are in a point of let's say when we can decide or I'm not sure if it's really a decision we can make, but the financial system needs some kind of upgrade for sure.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we're going to close up soon, but I've just got a few simple questions. Is on Bitcoin, you said how many blocks is there on Bitcoin? 51 million, you say? 21 million. So let's say Elon Musk comes in, being the disruptive guy he is, and he puts some developers in. Could he not make a rival to Bitcoin following the similar practices?
Yes.
With 25
You don't need
blocks?
developers. Basically, you can just copy the Bitcoin. It's easy.
And I mean, if somebody with that power backed it, that'd probably get a lot of traction.
You don't need the power. You don't need that much power. I mean, to copy the Bitcoin, you don't need the power.
I mean, influence, like for people to adopt it and mine it and things like this.
Yeah, but that will be the real question, because the brain behind Bitcoin will not follow that, because I mean, this is the substantial problem of that, because we don't want that kind of influential person in the system. So obviously there will be a fork, and someone will follow Elon Musk, and the rest will follow the original, the longest line of Bitcoin.
I mean, sorry, if he made his own complete cryptocurrency from scratch.
Yeah, he can do that. He can do that. He can do that. No problem. I mean, we already have like 100,000 different crypto.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, I mean, for me, with my finance head on whenever you have, I mean, Bitcoin's leading the way by a long way, I think, in terms of, you know, my nan knows about Bitcoin. Like, that's, you know, insane. She doesn't even have a phone, you know, that has a color screen. So my thing is eventually with that, obviously there's been a lot of, you know, like the Hawk coin, there's been loads of different attempts at it. But if somebody, you know, some mastermind with a financial backing said, we're now making Musk coin, which is going to follow the same principles as Bitcoin, exactly mirror image, but with less blocks. In theory, the store of value argument is now less supply. That would be a direct rival, I assume, to Bitcoin, would it?
Well, I mean, you know, if you think about Bitcoin Cash, they did the same, and you know, there was a huge dispute in 2017 how big the Bitcoin block should be. That was the SegWit dispute and the segregated witness, and a big chunk of the Bitcoiners decided that it should be bigger, so they will follow a different route. So there was a fork that Bitcoin Cash was created, and Bitcoin Cash is living their own life, and Bitcoin is going on. So always the longest chain what matters, and just think about that, like. Put it simple, we have like, I don't know, 100,000 people deciding now on Bitcoin. There comes another, I don't know, 200,000, they are in majority, they will follow something, but these guys will follow this link because they understand that that's the real value of Bitcoin, that we decided there is a mesh network. If someone wants to hijack the technology and hijack the Bitcoin, then actually everybody will be happy that those guys are following a different link, and for a while it will running parallel and
in tandem.
In tandem, but Bitcoin has a very complex and very mature immune system, so it will react that now there is more people, so the difficulty will go down, exchange rate will go up, and when we lose the users, exchange rate will go down and difficulty will go up, and it will, you know, balance itself. It will obviously, there will be some fluctuations, but after a while, my prediction will be that the other chain will, you know, die slowly, and Bitcoin will get back the exchange rate. So this is what we see now all the time.
And I mean, I've got finally two questions. Have you?
Just one real fast. Debanking, where, you know, these politically exposed people or whatever, if you have a different narrative, is crypto a possibility to get beyond that or around that, do you think? So, like, look at the truckers in Canada that were protesting and people were donating to them, and then they were kicked out of the banking system.
Or people who have sanctions.
Or sanctions. Is crypto a solution? And I'm not, and more so, like,
good or bad.
We have a business. Let's say I own a company and I get kicked out of the banking system, but now I'm going to basically lose my business and stuff. Can crypto circumvent that, where we could make payments to suppliers, to whatever, so that I can maintain my business and keep going, or is it done?
Well, there is a short answer, yes, definitely. I mean, the crypto system is already able, technologically, algorithmically, yes. The question is only on the community if they able to accept that. I mean, if you accept my crypto and you accept my crypto, we have an ecosystem here, and that's it. But the question is if there is a self-sustaining exchange rate system for that, and to have a self-sustaining system, you need basically something like with the financial system. So you need both sides of the equation, and over time it will balance itself. But you need a large enough system, and you need clear rules for that. Bitcoin have clear rules. It has a large enough system by now, but obviously not scalable enough to do the job on the global level. So you will need something like a regional Bitcoin, let's say, and you can do that. But, you know, a community need to accept that, and you need a large enough system for that.
When you're saying the community of Bitcoin, I mean, excuse my naiveness here, but you're saying a community of Bitcoin have to accept it. So let's say using that terrorist example everyone wants to use, if it was known that this wallet was a terrorist, could the community do anything against that or not?
I did not say community of Bitcoin. Community, the local community.
Okay, sorry.
So because if you accept Bitcoin, I can pay you right now. You can issue your invoice on a the same invoicing system. I'm just paying. It's the mean of account, and it's unit of exchange is Bitcoin. So it's totally unrelated. Technologically, it can be done. If the local community accept that, then it's fine. And back to the question of what can you do? You cannot do that. You cannot do anything with that. And for sure, you don't know that the wallet belongs to a terrorist. I mean, obviously there are wallets under surveillance because there are some really famous wallets because they are holding like Satoshi Nakamoto's wallet, like the Kobayashi wallet. The Mt. Gox exchange went bankrupt in Japan, and the government or the judge decided that they will be
liable.
Yeah, and they hold a bunch of Bitcoin. And Kobayashi is a Japanese lawyer, and if he decides that he sells all the Bitcoin, then again there will be a crash for sure. But that's why the community is watching those wallets. If we know that a wallet belongs to a terrorist, for sure they will watch the wallets, and there will be some automation.
You can see where the transactions are too.
Yeah.
So actually, it's a good in a weird way.
Yes, and how can they use the funds then? So it's difficult because you need an ATM, you need an access to a bank, you have to go to an exchange or something like that, and you will be tracked. Obviously, there are some ways like I have the wallet here, you have your wallet here, and we exchange cash. So yeah, there is a way for that, but then we have to meet. But if we meet, we can use US dollars. Sure. So,
but I mean, on that transaction, if let's say you were a terrorist, and you sent money to Chris, I'd be able to see that transaction.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, the argument in my head then for terrorists choose it is actually null and void because. Yeah, governments are tracking these accounts and, accounts at every bank anyway, or hopefully. But now you have normal people tracking it as well. Yeah. And there's probably a lot of rumors circulating. I don't know if you've ever seen the Netflix documentary, Don't Fuck With Cats. Have you seen that?
No.
It's insane. So some kid, I can't remember exactly what he did, but he put a cat in a bin, right? And posted it online, and then the internet went crazy, and these people who were at home with too much time found him, and there was a big, they did this big documentary style and made it look a lot bigger than what it was. Yeah. But I'm this whole community of people who didn't know each other were now create a forum to help find this guy who put a cat in a bin. And I'm okay, now imagine if you think this terrorist, you're going to give that information out, it's going to go online. So I think it would be a lot harder for a terrorist to hide in an open network.
Yes, so obviously there is technologically there is a way. I create a Bitcoin wallet and use it only for that transaction and send it to another Bitcoin wallet which was created then, and they never use it again. Then it's done. You cannot do anything with that. But how you put your money on that?
That's what I mean. Yes. Yeah. So there's a trail.
Yes, every time there is a trail. So in a normal bank, you can see the bank account. You know that it belongs to you, it belongs to me, but you cannot see what's on the bank account. It's the other way around in Bitcoin. I can see everything, all the transactions, from the starting point until the end of time, but I don't know who does it belong to. I mean, you can track it back, and statistically, you can find it out. But that's it.
On just closing out. So on Bitcoin, I mean, you said it's more of a store of value now, and it kind of could become a usable currency, or could go a different route, or whatever. Where do you see Bitcoin being in 20 years, or what would you? How? I mean, I know it's a hard question. I understand that, but I mean, I think it is going to get more popular, but what do you think kind of the final main focal point? Because I mean, I don't think being a store of value is the full potential, right? Where would you like to see it? Let's say that rather than...
Well, if it fulfills its full potential and the global community accepts that, and all the technological advantages goes in favor, we always use that term, let's say, this kind of approach. Either Bitcoin goes to 1 million USD as an exchange rate or goes to zero. As time goes by, the going to zero is more and more less probable now. So it definitely goes towards 1 million. But the question is how long, I mean, again, a lot of ifs and disclaimers, how long does it make sense at all to value Bitcoin to USD? Because, if these kind of changes and technological advances happening, we don't need to measure it to USD. We will measure it Bitcoin to another Bitcoin or another crypto, and Bitcoin can be a sort of basic crypto system for the store of value, and we will launch our cryptos, labeled monies and ecosystem accounts based on or measured to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, the argument for, Bitcoin in my head would always have made more sense to do it against gold.
Yeah.
That's something that's more international, than thingy. But I mean, maybe let me rephrase that question a little bit. Not in terms of value, where do you see Bitcoin going, but what do you see its functionality being at its full potential in society?
I think that. I mean, Bitcoin will be a standard of how to create a new financial system, and you can create micro-financial systems based on that. So just like I mentioned, regional unit of accounts and automated monies and stuff like that, based on not the Bitcoin network, but based on Bitcoin will be a sort of gold standard for that.
Got it.
So let me put it that way, just like I mentioned, scarcity. So it's a challenging idea, but the only scarce good in the universe is basically Bitcoin. Because everything else can be created and recreated. I mean, just like I mentioned, Elon Musk just told it in a podcast that labor will be unlimited thanks to robotics, robot technology. So I can create as many robots as I want. So the labor force and the productivity of the labor force will be not a measurement of a country's economy, a state economy. So that there is no scarcity. Bitcoin is scarce. 21 million. Obviously, it's divided. You can divide it, so it's divisible. But it's a mathematical scarcity.
How was that number come up with, 21 million?
That's a good question.
They loved the song by, I don't know if you know the old 21 Seconds song by So Solid Crew. Horrible song. People are going to be Googling that now. That's it from me, Tamas. It was insight. I learned a lot, actually.
Very informative.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so
amazing.
much. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions down below. How do people find you? Is LinkedIn the best one? Is it okay if I drop that down below?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Tamas, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.